So, welcome everyone to Happy Life Habits Inspiration Point. This is series 4 and it's episode 2. And our guest today is Angelina Samaroo. So I'll introduce her properly in a moment, but just share a couple of slides and introductions to you. So let's go full screen. Can you all see the screen? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm just going to put this here. Okay, so as usual, what I would like you to, what we'd like to do is just ask using a scale of 0 to 10, but not using the number 7. Just take a checkpoint to see where you are on that happiness scale for yourself. So, and you like to use fractions and you like to use decimals, but just take a checkpoint right now to just see where you are. And if you want to put it in the chat, you can drop it in the chat. And if you want to press the space bar and share, that's fine. And this is really just there as a checkpoint for ourselves, just to see where we're at. Our numbers are unique to us. We do not need to compare our numbers with anyone else because our scale is different from everyone else's. But it's there just as a checkpoint for us to see where we're at. And we've got a great variety there. And I myself will be 8.2 at the moment. Been a bit under the weather this week, so it's a little bit less, but 8.2 is what we'll say. And the key thing here is the purpose of this exercise is 1, for us to be aware of where we are at this moment in time. 2, with that awareness, we have choice. If the number is not what we want it to be, we can choose to change it. And that's by taking action. And the things we share in Happy Life Habits, the practices and the knowledge we share are the things which can help us shift this number, moving upwards in a positive direction. So that's what's there. So it's awareness, it's choice, and it's action. So our ground rules are this session is being recorded. We ask you to keep your mobiles on silent for the duration. We ask you to stay on mute. At the moment, you can have your videos on, but when we go into the interview process, if I could ask you to stay on mute and keep your videos off during that period, that would be great. Then at the end, when we come to the Q&A, you can switch the videos on and ask questions either directly or via the chat. So that's what we're working with. So as I've shared, I'm Shane Shah, happiness coach. So for Happy Life Habits, we're positively impacting happiness and well-being levels. And one of these is through this Inspiration Point podcast project. And this is about having guests come on who are inspiring, positive, extraordinary people, sharing their journey, their challenges and turning points, daily habits and learning through personal development, happiness and spirituality. And it's really about having this 1 hour for us to focus on positivity, happiness, and either resonate with whoever's sharing as they answer the various questions, or to be inspired to face work through the challenges we may be facing. So that's how we're working with this. And we've got a set of 9 questions that we work through. These include what makes you happy, what are you currently doing that inspires you, and what's really lovely that I enjoy about this is as each person guest who shares on this, there's some commonality that we see in it, and there's also some individuality we see. So from both angles we see some common ground, and we also see some individuality. And by the end of the session there should be some things that you've been inspired with, and also some new learnings you've taken away from the session. So that's what we're dealing with there. And really, I'd like to say a big thank you and a grateful thank you to Balance Consultancy. So Shandip is with us, joining us today. He sponsored all 6 episodes of this series 4, as well as sponsoring previous episodes, and have been a great supporter of Happy Life Habits. So really appreciate that. So if you do need professional writers or lasting power of attorneys to be sorted, highly recommend visiting balanceconsultancy.co.uk and progressing those things. So Inspiration Point podcast, as I mentioned, 6 episodes in this series. Last session 2 weeks ago, we had Nisanka sharing her journey. The recordings of those are on the website and on YouTube and on the podcast platform. And today we have Angelina joining us. And then we have 4 more people every 2 weeks between now and December through this, winter, autumn period to see us through and inspire us. And each of them brings a different story and a different journey to the table. And so let's have a little introduction to Angelina. So Angelina's roots are in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's in the Caribbean. And she had a happy childhood in the sun. Now, of course, here in the wonderful UK with its various seasons. And she came back to England age 14 and attended secondary school. And that's a really interesting story that we'll hear about more in a moment. She didn't go down the usual journey that her mum was suggesting of going to become a doctor or an accountant. She chose to go into aeronautical engineering. And remember, that's quite a rare discipline to go into, and even rarer, 15, 20, 30 years ago, as well as one which, not many people may have heard of or been aware of during that time. And to go into that, which is quite a male-dominated environment, she's thrived in that environment. She's worked on the Tornado fighter jet, and she'll give us, that journey of working on that for a number of years, and the skills she developed. Became chartered with the Royal Aeronautical Society, became a fellow of the Institution of Engineering and Technology, and in that environment, as things progressed, she saw the glass ceiling, and then chose to come away from hitting that glass ceiling or being bound by that glass ceiling. And with experience she's gained from her education, from going into aeronautical engineering, going into software testing in the for the Tornado, and doing user acceptance testing and so forth. With all of those skills and experience, she's now offers courses in software development and training, and has actually written some books for the British Computer Society. For those of you not aware, that's the professional body for computer scientists and IT professionals in the UK, similar to the accountancy bodies and the will writers bodies and the pharmaceutical bodies and the British Medical. It's that equivalent, and she's written a couple of books on software testing and user acceptance, so no mean feat there. And what she really does value is real people in her life, contributing to society. And through her community work, she's actually teaching some Nepalese ladies English, and really enjoying that experience and learning lots. And she will share her experience of seeing angels on Earth and how they've guided her on her journey. So that's a short introduction to Angelina. So Angelina, a really warm welcome. For those of you who are able to, you might prefer to take the Zoom, go to view and change it to speaker view instead of gallery view. And that should show Angelina and myself nice and big on the screen. And yeah, welcome, Angelina. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Shailene. I must admit, I sound better when you introduce me.
I think we all do.
You look really good, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. So we'll go straight to it. So Angelina, the very first question that we always like to ask is, what makes you happy? What are some of the things that make you happy?
Yeah, I mean, happiness is a big word, isn't it? To try and figure out what actually makes you happy on a day-to-day basis. And some days, we're not, if you're not well, you aren't well. So if you're not well, you're not feeling very happy. What makes you happy? And I think, at the end of the day, it's the normal stuff, that your family's all okay, you're all okay, you've got no big problems, just the usual stuff in life, really. What makes me really happy though is when I can get up with a day that's all mine. There's no deadlines, there's no, not that I mind being here, but there's nothing that I have to be at any time. I like having a free day. So that really makes me happy. So if I wake up, there's no shopping to do, there's nothing to do, just the day to do anything that comes my way. That's my happiest days, when I can.
So kind of like an unscheduled day where you've got the freedom to then choose what to do.
Yeah, so it depends on the weather. Today was a lovely day, you know, it was really nice weather. So if you've got something to do and you've got to go to work today and it's sunny, you think, so I don't want to go to work today because I'd rather be out in the sun. So that for me is the ultimate happiness, where you could just steer your day depending on what the weather's bringing and what you feel like doing on that day. They don't come very often, as I'm sure you all know, but sometimes they do. So that's yeah, I look for freedom. So I could do my own.
Wonderful. And that was part of the aspect of then starting your own business as well, I guess.
Yes, after a while, you know, when you when you're in the working world, you know, you're there for a reason, because you've got to pay the bills and then you've got to pay your mortgage and you've got to do all this sort of stuff. And then there comes a point where you start to wonder what you yourself can do and how would you stay your day? You know, what would you do with it? So it is nice to have the anchoring beforehand, to have gone through the sort of education system and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think ultimately we all want some kind of freedom. And you know, just even if it's a couple of hours here and there, just to do whatever it is you need to do by yourself, it's quite, you know, it's quite nice. So yes, so running my own business is a big part of that. So you really can steer your own destiny and choose. Not that it's that easy, because of course your clients will then lead you. So you've got many more bosses than one. So there is that side of the coin. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. So what are you currently doing that inspires you? And this can involve, you know, what you're doing from the work perspective, as well as outside of the work perspective. So what are currently some of the things you're doing that, you know, inspire you?
Yeah, well, on the work side, it is about, you know, delivering the training courses. I do lots of different training courses, and it's just getting those, you know, we're delivering it online. So last week I had a group of very experienced people. And so because it's online, I had a guy from Ghana, I had a couple of people from Portugal, and I had the rest from the UK. And that was really interesting, just to have everybody together. Now, normally they would come to London, but that's an interesting dynamic to work online. And so right now I'm working how to get the courses to work interactively when you're online, because it suits me. Whilst I'd love to travel far, far away to far-flung places like Ghana and Lisbon, I don't particularly want to come to London on the train.
Yeah.
So what's inspiring me right now is trying to figure out how to do this so it's interactive enough so I don't have to go to London. I don't mind being in London, but I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Train to get to London, and I have to take the train before the train I want, because it's probably not going to run on time. And that really frustrates me. The thing I pay for doesn't actually work, so I have to leave my house an hour before I'd normally leave my house, because it's probably, and when it does work, then I'm at the office an hour early. So I hate that. It's just not an efficient spend of my time. So I find that inspiring. Well, at the moment, and this might be quite contentious, whatever your political bent, I quite like the way Boris Johnson speaks. He does make me feel, I think Keir Starmer probably has more to him, but Boris Johnson is inspiring me right now. Get up and get on with it. So I'm thinking, well, I've got this problem. And he's saying, well, actually, no, just go do this, you know. So right now, strangely enough, I'm not saying I like the man, but I like his words and I like his enthusiasm. And it's just, you know, just kind of gloss over all the horrible things that's happening, which is what politicians do. But he is giving me some reason to think, okay, I wonder if there's a different way to do things. Maybe I could find other things to sort of spread out.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm taking, so whatever your views on Brexit, and Rupal and I have had many discussions on Brexit. I feel we're here now. You should just go with whatever. You know, you can't roll back, whichever side of the argument you're on. This is where we are. And I feel I'm up for this challenge now. Just tell me what, you know, there's a million vacancies out there. I haven't had a look yet because I am busy. But I wonder what else there is that I could be doing. I don't know. Maybe there's something else I could be doing differently or better or whatever. If there's a million vacancies, not that I've had a look on
Yes.
You know, to see what they might be. Maybe there's something else I could be doing that's more fun. You know, I don't know.
Do you want to drive a HGV trailer?
Oh, what, trainer?
HGV.
HGV trainer, yes. Well, I know the Queen's already been asked, so maybe I'll let her first before I go. But yeah, so my Qigong teacher, can I talk about that or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
So So there, I'm sure most of you probably have heard of Tai Chi. So I was introduced to something called Qigong, which is the thing that came before Tai Chi. So my understanding is Qigong was what people in China did, first of all, for health reasons, because they don't have a welfare state, and they've always got famine. They're perpetually hungry. They don't really have an awful lot. And so they were practicing Qigong to keep themselves well, so they didn't have to go to hospital and pay lots of money. And then apparently some army general said, can you turn that into Tai Chi? But my teacher, she is an English lady, and she went out to, about 10 years ago, went out to China. She was made redundant in an ordinary job here, and then somehow found herself in China studying this thing. And I'm thinking, how do you make that leap? What comes into your head and says, I think, now maybe she was doing Qigong with another teacher, I haven't asked her. But what I find fascinating with her is how she manages to keep her flock together. So she kept us all together during lockdown on Zoom.
Yeah.
Managed to get us all out into the classroom. And every time she teaches us in a subtly different way, the way she does it. So I'm finding her really inspiring, because she runs a tiny business like mine in a completely different sphere, but she's still teaching. So I'm trying to learn from her how she's, a different take on how you might do things. So she's, at the moment, I think, quite an inspiring person.
And Qigong, Qi is that universal energy that flows through all of us, and sometimes alluded to, like in Star Wars, the Force, correct?
Yes. And
the life energy.
Yes, and it's all about channeling the energy from the earth and up. And she says, "Oh, bring the earth up and do this and push things back." And I feel if you are having a busy day, I think she's quite calming, to sort of push all that back. So that's a journey I never thought I would take. In my younger days, I certainly had no interest in anything that looked like soft skills. I was all into, hard engineering stuff. And in London, you have to be, powerful or whatever. So I'm exploring this other side of me that I want to develop, to sort of be, I suppose a bit softer really, and just discover more fun things to do really, rather than always channeled. Our culture is always about success, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's trying to find a way out of that, to think of other things that are a more holistic way of being, rather than I always have to be, marching this way to do everything that unfortunately we are predisposed to. That's how we're brought up, aren't we? So
yeah. So a couple more things I remember you shared with me regards to the inspiring. One was gardening.
Yes.
So
during lockdown,
because we do have some key gardeners with us on.
Okay. Well, all right. So maybe I should just declare. So I'm just a novice. But during lockdown, I dug deep into my front garden and redid the whole thing. So along the streets, everybody's driveways, and mine's an oasis. So I created a completely different garden, and I had lots of people do it for me, and everything died. I did it myself. I Googled, I looked at where the sun was, so I tracked where the sun was. I looked where the plants were. I went to the garden center and fought my way to get compost and stuff and did the front. And I'm really, really pleased with that. And then I attacked the back and created a little wild garden at the back. And then but like a lot of people, they turned to gardening, didn't they, during lockdown, because you're allowed legally to be.
Yeah.
I suppose, it was nice to just join the masses for once, just do something that everybody else is doing. So I didn't feel out of place. I felt like, this is what everybody's doing, just do it. And RuPaul sent me some plants as well. Thank you, RuPaul. So, I planted those out, and, we kind of got into community so you could talk to other people about it because they've got an allotment, and then I call her for ideas and stuff. And I suppose a lot of people do gardening, don't they? When you're of a stage, maybe you gravitate to gardening and Radio 4 at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, no, gardening is very therapeutic. One, it's some of it's the physical exercise, some of it's that mindfulness of attention to whatever plant or work you're doing, as well as just being in nature, and greenery has proven to have so many benefits. And when you're also maybe either in an allotment or working in the garden, someone passes by, that social interaction and sharing ideas of gardening are all conducive. So it is used as a therapy in many places, and it's good for the mental health as well. So I've enjoyed doing bits of gardening and find it very beneficial. So great. And Tell us a bit more about teaching the Nepalese ladies. What does that involve? How did that come about, and how do you benefit?
Yeah, so I was walking, and I went past this notice board and it said they want teachers to teach the local Nepalese people at the church. So I tentatively sent a CV in and say, not expecting anything because I'm not an English teacher. And I haven't done these sort of courses or anything, teaching English as a foreign language and all. I haven't done any of those things. So anyway, they said, just come along. And it's not, to saying you're teaching them English is really grand. For what we do, we actually just spend time with them. But what's interesting is they are, a lot of them are grandmothers. I think one of them, Ananda, is probably a great grandmother. And in Nepal, women don't go to school. So they've never held a pencil. And, okay, I'm a bit older now, but they are happy to take, instruction from you. And then that is really interesting that a grandmother would take instruction from this person that turns up and says, well, do it like this. And you have to wonder the motivation, why would they do that? And what has really delighted us is if you give them mathematics problems to solve, they love it. And they want to get to the end of the paper. So that in itself is an inspiration because they're not trying to get a job or anything. They're not youngsters trying to fit in. It's just a bit of fun, but they don't want to be interrupted when they're doing the sums. So I find that really interesting. And, and we've taught them how to write their names and things. And we had once, we've only done it once, we took them to the local pastry shop, to sort of have some afternoon tea or something, and they don't give money. They don't hand them money, the women, the men do that for them. So they don't go shopping and hand money over. But they were all our ladies. So we took them, we went ahead to the cafe and said, right, what will it cost? And he said, I don't know what he said. He says, okay, so they've only got a $5 and you must give them change because I want them to have the experience of handing money over and getting something back. He says, okay, we'll make it £4.50. They all went, they all lined up, they all handed their $5 over. And they said they had never done that before. They never paid for anything on their own. Not everybody, but lots of them. And, they sat and they had tea the way, the sort of proper, the way you probably do it and whatever. And they got all dolled up for it because normally they're very casual. They got all dolled. It was just such a nice experience. And you just feel that, you're doing something interesting and fun for people for an hour and a half who ordinarily probably wouldn't take instruction from a younger person who can't speak Nepalese and just about something about Nepal. So that's good fun. I've now been doing it for about 2 or 3 years now. So it's funny how the years roll around. So we had our first classes 3 weeks ago. They started back face to face. So when it came down, so we lost a couple of people through the COVID. So a couple of people died, and then there was a barbecue session, and there was a woman in floods of tears. She just couldn't be consoled. Her husband had died. So but they're back, and they're back without masks and things. So that's I'm going tomorrow actually. So that's my Thursday morning thing if I'm not working.
Fantastic, wonderful.
Yeah. So that's good fun. Yeah.
Excellent. Sounds really rewarding, and sounds like both parties are really benefiting from this experience. So
yes, well, now I've been doing it for a long time. When I'm walking around Sandhurst, I know a lot of them now, and they recognize you, and that's really nice to be in a community where people say, I now know somebody on just about every street in Sandhurst, and so that didn't happen before. So that makes you feel more grounded in your area. So so that's nice.
Feels part of the community.
Yeah, you do part of the community now. Yes, yeah.
Excellent. So now we want to the big kind of question, which is 2 or 3 questions really. It's what's been your journey, some of the challenges and major turning points that you've had, and how you've overcome those. So
my mum was here in the 60s and I was born here, and then she went back to Trinidad. So we spent our childhood, in Trinidad, and it was an amazing childhood in the sun.
Sorry, just with that, I think when we were speaking previously, was it 300 or 400 years ago that there's been an Indian emigration from India to Trinidad and the Caribbean, correct?
So what happened was the Indians were taken from India to the Caribbean as indentured laborers.
Okay.
If you remember, there were the plantations, and so the Indians were taken to do labor work, but as paid labor. So my great grandfather's father was there as a boy. So his father, was taken to Trinidad, and Trinidad has a huge Indian community. And I would say we're probably about half and half. There is quite a lot of Chinese people, but I guess they're probably not that, voluminous. Yeah. So the Indian culture. So we were brought up speaking English because it's the West Indies, but everything we did at home in terms of anything religious was obviously all around. We're Hindu, so all around being Hindu, and we followed all the traditions but as I've gotten older, I've realized that we're following an idea of what the traditions are because India's so moved on. We're like stuck over there, and India's modern and doing different things. And I'm saying to my mom, so they don't do it like that anymore, Mom. You're holding on to whatever we were taught 300-400 years ago. India doesn't look like that anymore.
Yes.
But I suppose if you think of religion and spirituality, then of course that doesn't age. So that's whatever it was. So so we've held on to those traditions as much as we can. And some of it obviously has got diluted, but my parents and all our festivals and stuff we follow. So that's a huge thing. So my childhood was anchored like that, going to school, doing well, all that kind of stuff. And then we came back to England when I was 14. And then my mum then decided they were going back to Trinidad, but I wasn't going with them. I was staying here. I was like, with where are you going? And so she left me here. So, and it's bizarre. I'm 15. I was like, what's going on? So anyway, I didn't ask to go back though. So it was like, I was on a journey and she put me on this journey, and it never really occurred to me then to question why I was. It's only when I got older, I was like, well, you did what? I just did as I was told. That's what you do. This is where you, and you now live with Auntie, oh my gosh, Lynn. I now live with Auntie Lynn and her mother. Okay, I'm living with Auntie Lynn and her mother then. and here I was on my own. I was like, okay. And so I was looked after for a little while. And then they sent my younger sister to live with me. And she's like, what am I doing here? It's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. So we look back at it and laugh now, but I suppose in those days, the world wasn't as strange as it is now. It wasn't so scary.
Yeah.
You could do things. You could be, we were out on doing things on our own. We'd go out playing all day on our own. We'd get home. It was a tough life, but we didn't think of choice then. We didn't have any. That's where we lived. My mother was over here, so I couldn't take myself on a plane and go find her. So I don't know. We just did it. But looking back on it, bonkers. I mean, just who does that? It's just bonkers. I said to her, what were you? Anyway, she hangs her head in shame now. Well, I didn't do badly. I said, yes, but that's down to me, not you. You were the one who left me here. So I have no idea. I can't tell you, Shailene, what was in her head, what was in my head. I just put one foot in front of the other much. I suppose, I don't know, just got on with it.
Yeah.
I did go back to Trinidad every year, but I returned every year. I suppose somewhere I must have known this is where I need to be. I don't know. I can't really explain that, other than I think I was always born to be a soldier. I think I was in the army. I would have just done as I was told, I think. So I then went to university. So yes, the family, as I'm sure you're all aware, you're a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, sorry, RuPaul, or an accountant, or, and I thought, so I don't want to do any of those things. At A-level, I had a really, really good electronics teacher, and he was saying to us, you should consider engineering, and I was the only one who took him up and considered that. So then I went to university, and as you said, so I was the only woman or girl in the class. And I didn't, when you're 18, you're not really that aware of male, female professions. You're just aware of this is what we do. You know, we are doctors and we are lawyers and that kind of thing. So for me, it wasn't about being in any particular environment. It was just not the normal stuff, just do something different. But in any case, I actually enjoyed electrical engineering. I suppose I could have followed, so my sisters-in-law, I probably could have followed law, but I don't think it was as interesting as engineering seemed to be. So it was really out of the blue for me and for them. My family wasn't, that keen on the idea. What will you do with that? Why don't you do something we understand? And then I graduated, and then then it became a big thing because I got a really nice job, and I think they started to understand maybe what I could do. I suppose that's different. So it took me down that road. So my mathematical brain, I think, is probably was more finely tuned, I guess, than the other half. I guess for law and stuff, I think I would have tired of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of found a calling or a discipline which leveraged off your passion and your interest and your strengths fairly early on.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard, but the one thing I've learned through life, though, is, for me, if you stick to it, whatever it is, rather than, this is in my opinion, I think other people, my siblings, have done things very differently and chopped and changed in my view. This chopping and changing, every time you change direction, it costs you something, doesn't it? And I've always wanted the most direct route to retirement that I could find. And I felt if I wasn't enjoying it, but I jumped out, should I not have spent that time getting better, whatever this thing is? So I've tried to stick on the same road, and I've turned it. So it was engineering, and it was programming, it was that, then it was testing. Then that became training in testing. But now I'm more trainer than I am tester. So I'm going to turn that around into something else. So the career has changed, but there's actually a pattern that you can see. And for me, that's efficient. I go for efficiency. I'm always trying to work direct route to whatever. I hate waste of anything. So to me, I don't want to waste my time. I certainly don't waste my money. I don't waste food. I try to do things in a nice, tidy. I think we should be the smallest footprint we possibly can on the planet, because quite frankly, I still haven't figured out why we're here. So I feel I should just do as little as possible harm as I could and just take what I need and then, die and don't know what happens after that. So that for me, you could argue was a tough journey, but then everybody's life has challenges, isn't it? Whatever it is you're doing. I don't think some people have really, really tough lives, but I think for most of us in mainstream, we're all on the same road, aren't we? Just subtly different challenges. I think the people you meet are usually like you.
Yes and no. I think it's, from my experience of the episodes we've had, there's some of what people are sharing and have been gone through. You can relate to some extent, but some of it is along the lines of that. I wasn't even aware that something like this was out there or could happen. Like this anchor last time had shared about growing up in a war-torn environment of Sri Lanka, and a home where there was domestic violence. So hadn't been aware or seen that, and some of the other people who we will have coming on and will be sharing, I think, aspects which just broaden our awareness of the world, because often, we can be having a particular view of what we've been exposed to and aware of in that way.
Yes, and if you've been exposed to direct physical violence or anything like that, then that's an entirely different thing. I've been obviously aware of it, and you kind of, when so the most important male figure for me was my granddad, and he was everything that to me a male figure should be. So when I was a child in Trinidad and there was no electricity, he went outside and he brought this thing and it was a generator. And I was like, oh my God, my granddad knows how to make electricity. How is he doing that? It's like, wow. So to me, he was all hero. And then when he died, then that's a real challenge. I really was all at sea for a couple of years. I wasn't quite sure. When my grandmom died, that was terrible. but she was not as an anchor as the steering in my life. So when he died, it was all over the place. I actually went adrift for a couple of years and quite know. But in terms of facing violence in any way, I've been very lucky. No, I haven't.
Yeah, but I think the one that was of interest to me, which, when we had first shared it, is that, age 14, 15, being here in a way on your own, and you were saying about, making your own way to school, cooking your own food, and then looking after your younger sibling. Lots of big responsibilities at a young age.
That was incredibly hard, because I really wanted to be a good student, and I'd lie in the bed at night and my book would be here because I'd be so tired. I'm trying to read this book and I'd fall asleep because, of course, you're just absolutely exhausted, just from the day. So I wasn't trying to be wayward, but keeping up at school was really hard. And when I left Trinidad, because everything was there, I was doing well. When I came here, for the first few years, I did do well. But then when it got to the tough subjects, because I was exhausted, so there are challenges. But I suppose the bigger challenges in life is when somebody's, really, I wasn't, everybody was rooting for me. It wasn't like I was, abandoned, I suppose. But I think the challenges you're describing are real challenges that people do come through and can inspire us. So if I think of people in the family and in my friends, sort of friendship circles, we've all had sort of maybe not quite as heart-wrenching challenges, but you go through the normal challenges. And it's trying to figure out what's important and how you keep pushing yourself really hard, knowing that you're in a position of privilege compared to a lot of the world. So for me, knowing, and I always used to complain and say, you won't drink water. I said, some people have to walk 5 miles to get water. And you won't drink water coming out of the tap. I said, come on, drink some water, have fun, So I don't know. I'm very aware of, I think, what I consider a position of privilege that most of us inhabit compared to an awful lot of people. I'm grateful that I'm not in that world, although I think old enough now to be able to dodge the bullet,
Okay, that's good. And in terms of with a career, as you said, you were very much in a male-dominated industry, but you did thrive in that environment, in the sense of being the first chartered engineer in the company. A lot of it was down to getting focused and putting in the hard work and so forth. Tell us a bit, I guess, about the experience of the glass ceiling and the shift away from there to Australia and so forth.
So when I started studying for my MBA, and then when you're studying, you get bored, and I looked at the newspapers and I found a job advert for engineers out in Australia. So I applied for that and I got the job. Oh my gosh. So I got this job to go to Melbourne to work for their defense force. But it was a completely different environment. So I didn't like it at all. It wasn't quite what I thought it would be. So I came back and then I lost a couple more years and went to the city. But Shailene, it was very hard in the city. It was very, very tough.
And this was after 10 years working on the Tornado, correct?
10 years working on the Tornado. So I felt that I knew my stuff technically. But the next thing was to get commercially aware. And that was really tough. They didn't stab you in the back. They stabbed you while you looked at them. They didn't even have the decency to wait till your back was turned. And that was I wasn't shocked because I was warned before I went. Because my project manager said, you're not going to like it, that they'll eat you alive. And I said, so I might as well get eaten now then, because I'm young still, let's do it now. So I consciously chose it because I felt I would stay here in a warm environment, or I could face the cold while I'm young. And I was in my 30s and I thought, well, this is the time to do it if I'm going to try and find out what I could be made of. And that was extremely stressful. They were out to get you at every turn. And so you had to learn how to stand your ground. And one of the ways to get ahead in that company was to take up smoking and go to the smoking shelter with people. And that's when I saw the glass ceiling. I thought, well, obviously I'm not a smoker and I'm not going to smoke and I don't want to do that. And I'm not hanging around with you guys. So I took what I could out of that and then decided, so I'd had the engineering training, I'd had the business training, I had my half of my MBA, and I felt, well, perhaps I could do something with that. That seemed to be enough to go to the next level. So I resigned on April the 1st.
April Fool's Day.
And nobody except they didn't think it was, they thought it was a joke. And so they let me carry on and work with all the different clients. And normally when you resign, they give you 3 months garden leave. So I planned for my gardening leave to be paid to sit at home to plan my courses. And they said, no, you go out to work. And after a month, they said, so have you actually resigned? I said, oh my gosh, yes, that was my letter of resignation. So that was, so I took most of the clients with me. So I knew that I wanted to be my own thing, and I felt confident enough that at the end of the day, I think if you're married with children, it's a very different thing. Or if you have children, you're not married, but if you have responsibilities, then you can't do these things. I think that is the big difference. So all my siblings have children. So I don't think they could have taken the risk that I've taken, because it would have been a big challenge. So
Yeah.
if I lost my house or anything happened to me, I could always go back home. You can always go back to your parents, can't you? But if you have children to look after, I think that's an entirely different thing in your head. So again, that choice of lifestyle, and probably because I didn't really meet the man I wanted to meet, the man of my dreams, didn't appear. So I carried on, and so then you make different choices, really. But I think, I think it's about just making the most of whatever it is you've got. So if you've got children, they can bring you joy. And I have lots of nieces and nephews, and I do take a big interest in all of them. And so my eldest nephew is now 31, and I now have a great niece and a great nephew, and my great nephew is now, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. So they span the whole spectrum. So yes. I get involved like that, but as an outlier, I'm not really obviously so invested because I'm not the parent, but that's it.
Okay, good. If we move on to the next question, which is, what are some of your daily habits and routines that support you? So you already mentioned about Qigong. What other things do you do that nurture and support you?
So one of the tips when I was going into my own business, my boss had done the same thing, and he said, you need to get exercise every day. So, so I go for my walks every day, and to run a business for me, because those of you who run businesses or even in work, everything changes all the time, doesn't it? You got this. So if I can anchor myself some way, so if I can find a way, I do things in a particularly regimented way. So if I'm traveling, I stay at the same hotels near wherever it is I'm working. So I always stay in the same hotel, so they know me and I know them and they know what. So the routine actually works. And some philosopher from days of yore said, routinize the routine, make it the thing you do all the time, so it doesn't take up. You probably know these philosophers. I don't really know.
I mean, that's the habit part of Happy Life Habits. That's what we teach of, and with the 30-day gratitude and journal training course, we say do the journal, keep it by your bedside, keep the tools there, do it first thing in the morning, and use the triggers and the anchors, and make it a regular practice, and take the decision making part away. And that's what Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, and Barack Obama did. Took away the decision making of what they were going to wear, so they wore the same outfits each day. So they had that energy for the decision making preserved for the big decisions that they had to make. Yeah. Yes,
and yes. So you want things. I like to do things fully. I don't like to do things half-heartedly. So if I can't do it, I get frustrated. If I feel I'm going to be late to work, I'm frustrated, very frustrated. So I think for me, success is about knowing what you need to achieve and recognizing, because I'm now working for myself, that the client isn't paying for your whatever faffing around. They're paying for this. So this needs to happen. So therefore, you need to make sure that happens before you get to the classroom. So, which is why I would catch the train before the train I need, because it's not their problem shouldn't be their problem. So I think it's about being focused. And for me, coming from Indian roots is probably the biggest thing that has worked, because that work ethic is what's sewn into you, and it's kind of ingrained. And I think that's what will carry me through, and hopefully will carry the younger ones through. That's how we're brought up, and I feel really proud that we have that push, you know.
Brilliant. So yeah, so that's great. So routines is a big part of your aspects. Great. What is one of your favorite quotes?
So I can't remember it, Shailene. You had to fill it in for me, the wisdom one. So
Yeah,
I
it's
think
it's the Serenity Prayer.
the Serenity Prayer, that's the one.
Yeah. So it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So it's the aspect of work of the things that you can change and accept, you know, gracefully or with serenity the things you can't change and know which is which. Because there's no point in trying to change the weather because you can't control it, but you can change what you use for the weather, like taking an umbrella or a raincoat or sunglasses. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, we're talking about climate change now, and everybody wants world peace and all of these things, and they're all great things to aspire to, but when would you ever achieve it? So I think you can make your ambitions way bigger than the realms of possibility, and then you're never going to achieve it. So you're perpetually depressed, then you're never going to achieve anything. You know, if you can't pick little things, I've done this, I've, you know, cooked something really nice, or I've done that, or I've, you know, found a new route round, something simple. I think make it within your grasp so that you achieve it. And then I think success breeds success, doesn't it? You feel good.
Yeah, there's an excellent video. I think it's a sergeant or a lieutenant called Craven, I think is the name, and it talks about you know, first bit of success or whatever is making your bed. So he's an army person, and you know, making their bed in the morning was and making it well was a big deal, because doing that first thing meant, you know, they've achieved something and done it successfully, and then that led to the ripple effect of other things. So that's that. So what is an achievement that you're really proud of?
I think supposedly the biggest one has been to run my own business. So about a month ago, I had worked in the corporate world for 16 years and run my own business for 16 years. So I've now had 4 weeks on my own, as it were. So I've outlived my corporate world in my own world. And I enjoyed that moment to think it's been now half and half. And now I'm no longer working for myself than I was working for other people. So that for me is my own personal achievement. I have really, you know, that was on the work front. And of course, the other one is that, you know, I do feel my friends really are genuine people. So I feel that's a big thing, that I don't, nobody's, you know, so somebody was trying to get me as the thing was starting. And I don't think I told her. But I feel I have some really, really genuine friends who genuinely care. They're not interested in the usual frivolities and stuff. And, you know, yes, having a nice fun time, but I feel I have a good number of really interesting people who genuinely are interested in my life and will offer advice. And some people will intervene where others won't. And I would prefer somebody to intervene and say, oh, you're going the wrong way, do this. So I think those two things matter to me, you know, and obviously the usual family and stuff, but I think having really, really good friends is a big thing that you can call, and, you know.
Yeah, and it's one of the ones where the science and the research is there that, you know, good connections and relationships are one of the biggest factors that lead to longevity, a long and happy life. And the blue zone analysis that they done has shown that as well. So that's, the science has shown good relationships and connections leading to a long and happy life. What is one of your favorite books and why?
So I'll share with you. So Voyages of Delusion. So I have an interest in ships. So even though I studied aeronautical engineering, if I had my life to live over again, I'd probably go and study shipbuilding, because I think that's probably actually more interesting. And so the idea that people would go exploring on these ships in you know, big oceans, because I'm terrified of drowning. So the idea that they could do that, I think, is really, really courageous. And so this book was these people taking this ship to go and discover the Northwest Passage down in the around the Cape of Good Hope and around South Africa and those places. And And because the voyage of delusion, the delusion bit was that they couldn't navigate, didn't know where they were, got lost, stayed of course by miles, and got horribly lost, ran out of provisions, and then had a gentlemanly agreement that so you'd say to me, so Angelina, when I die, you can eat me. And they did that to survive. Now, I think it's based on fact. Sometimes they take history and fantasize it, but I believe it is based on some fact, where there was cannibalism going on, but they didn't, I wouldn't hunt you down and kill you to eat you. I'd wait until you'd passed away. And that teaches you that, sometimes in life, you've got to make some incredibly tough decisions, but it wasn't harsh. It wasn't like you were trying to run away. You didn't have to run from me. I'd wait for you to die, or I could die. But when they were found, they were half starved and all that kind of stuff. But the journey was what they were trying to that discovery. And so I've named my company the Pinter, which is after a ship. And so Christopher Columbus, when he discovered Trinidad, there were 3 ships, and the Pinter was supposed to be the most agile and smallest of the ships. So I'm tiny, and so I've kind of stuck to that. So.
And it connects to your Caribbean roots and the idea of journey and voyage and exploration.
Yeah, something just to remind me where I came from, and then I be there, and then the journey, and so it's all about just coming out of your normal life. So yeah,
fantastic, good. And what did you learn from your parents?
So my granddad pops into my head, so he'd go to work and come back home, and he'd give my grandmother the money that he'd earned, and she'd run the house, and I've never forgotten that. So, if you are the breadwinner, you need to go out to work. And so, go out to work. So when my grandmom was bringing us up, she had the sort of temple built, when you're in the Caribbean, you have these big homes like you would have in India and those places. So she had a temple, and she had all of our deities and all of that. And then she also had, a picture of Jesus Christ, and I was sent to a Muslim school. So she made sure that my upbringing was balanced. So I didn't have to go to a Hindu school because I practiced that at home, but I should go to a Muslim school because we don't practice that at home. So you can learn what that's all about. And then I did go to a convent. So she made sure that there would be no, when I'm growing up, and anything, I guess I wasn't aware of these problems with religion. And I think she made sure that I would continue to be bemused by the wars and stuff, because I still am, because that's how I was brought up.
Yes.
Every religious festival for us as children was a great time, because you'd get fed something. So, Diwali time we had all our stuff, and then you go to Eid, and then you'd get all this food coming out. Of course, Christmas. So to me, what's not to like? I mean, there's all this food coming my way. It's always nice. So those things, they taught us tolerance and all of that, and then of course, hard work, because you had no choice. My granddad had lots of mouths to feed, and then he did. Yeah. So it's just the usual stuff, I suppose. I don't know. I think it's probably quite common for us.
That's good. Thank you. So it comes to kind of the final main question, which is, who or what are your inspirers?
So I draw my inspiration to just some everyday people, right? What I need to do right now. I kind of compartmentalize my life. What do I need to do? What do I need to achieve right now? So I look around at people. So what am I looking for right now? That person's doing that, so I think I'll follow them. So right now, my Qigong teacher is inspiring me right this second. When I came to this part of the world, I had a supremely generous landlady when I was renting, who took me under her wing and she was an English teacher. So I had a presentation to give at work. She put me through my paces. We did that over and over and over and over until I got it right. And then she said, right, you're ready now, you can go. So she was really inspirational. And I don't look for big things. I don't look for the grand, big idea. I think small ideas will work within reach. Let me do that. In my youth, I thought, oh yes, you can go and change the way you can do it. No, you can't. Well, at least I don't. So anyway. You can play your little part in it, but am I going to solve climate change by myself? No, but I can do my bit. Do I want to be Greta Thunberg? No, definitely not. Am I impressed by these people stopping traffic everywhere? No, I'm so not. I think there are different ways of doing things, and you can always do things in a positive way to make your point. And if you can't, don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. So it's just normal people, really.
Fantastic. And with that, it might link in with the other strand that we did share at the beginning of how you see angels everywhere have been guiding you. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, when you're growing up, you just sometimes you reach a crossroads, you have no idea where to turn. And I can honestly tell you, I can pinpoint the people who said this way. So, you know, you need to go this way, you need to go that way. And again, when you're on your own, when your mother's left you, you have to figure it out. You have to find somebody else to aspire to, you know. And so the United Kingdom, I think, was my calling, and it was the place I needed to be. And my Qigong teacher says, you know, when you're ready, your teacher will appear. So I've known at points in my life when I'm stuck and I don't know which way to turn. And there's always been somebody I can hang on to that says, go this way. So to get the job, to get out of defense into the commercial world, I was chasing a very big salary rise because I bought the house and I wanted, you know. So and I found a chap who gave me the shot and gave me the pay rise I wanted. So he showed me the way. Okay, this way, do this. Then when I wanted to leave, I found a different person who said, this is how you run a business. So this is what you do. When I wanted something to do that I started to free up my time. So I wanted to do something for the community. Somebody there said, yes, this is how you do it. And what's good about the local churches, they ask no questions. They just accept you. You know, they're not interested in anything about you other than, yep, can you do this? Are you a happy, friendly person? And so I've become, you know, a big part of the church just by turning up. So, you know, and I've had long and deep meaningful conversation with their pastor, you know, because he's of a view that nobody's guilty of anything. So I've had really interesting conversation with him about, you know, child sex abuse and stuff. So justify that then. You know, and he's got a completely different take on it. So that level of next thinking comes from him. So you just see different people along the route that just says, yep, go this way. So for me, a prepared mind, I think, is you know, I'm ready to receive the information. Although there probably been lots of people advising that I just wasn't ready for, because your brain is, isn't it? You haven't seen
the alignment wasn't there. Yeah.
Probably haven't seen it until that came to help me. But it's because I remember that story about the man on the raft who's in the sea, you know, and somebody comes to save him, and the ship comes under this company, and he says, no, God will save me, and then he drowns. And God says, yeah, well, I sent all that. So
yes.
I don't want to be that person.
Yes, great. Thank you. Is there any you know, question or anything you want to share that we haven't asked you that you'd like to share before we finish?
No, I think that's, you know, I think right now I'm just morbidly curious about Boris Johnson, where he's taking us. I'm quite interested to see what happens next in this next journey. So no, thank you. Like everybody else, I'm just waiting for us to be able to travel and go somewhere and see the world again, I suppose.
Good. No, thank you for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen again. I'm going to cover a couple more slides. And in the meantime, if anyone would like to ask a question, if you could indicate on the chat or let us know, then we'll come and we will take those questions for a couple of minutes before we do finish. So I'm just sharing the screen here. So this is Angelina's website. So Pinter ED, so Pinter Education, pintered.com. So if you do want to get in touch with Angelina, you can contact her via that website, as well as if you are or know of anyone who is looking for training courses in software and user acceptance testing, this is the place to go on that. No, you're welcome. So we will go into question and answer in a moment. We often ask, you know, what is your happiness scale now as we come towards the end. So if you do want to just drop it in the chat, that would be nice to know, or press the spacebar and share. Again, we want to really thank Balance Consultancy for sponsoring the whole series. And in 2 weeks' time, we have Habit joining us. He's the director and owner of a brand called Wilds Excel, and he's been very much influenced by wildlife and wildlife and animals, and he's brought that into his music and into his clothing brand. So he'll be sharing that. He'll also be sharing some of the aspects of his colourful background of street life as he was growing up. The coping mechanisms of needing to use substances when his father had passed away, but now he's living a clean living life, and volunteering in community kitchens as well as working in social adult care. So some interesting journeys and stories to be shared there. And the final gratitude journal course for the year is open, and 31st of October, Sunday morning, 10 o'clock is when we will start. So if any of you do want to join, great opportunity to build those habits of gratitude and journaling, and ways to be connected to Happy Life Habits if you want to find out more about anything. So I'm just going to check and see, does anyone have any questions for Angelina that they would like to ask on what she shared? Great. So we're getting comments of thanks and interesting talk and so forth, but no questions.
Yep. Thanks for the comments. Thank you very much. Brilliant.
No, thank you, Angelina, for joining us, sharing your time, sharing your journey. Really appreciate it. Really fascinating. And I think prior to us having these conversations, I wasn't aware of the history and the heritage of the Indian community in Trinidad and Tobago. So that was interesting, and yeah, your journey has been very interesting to hear. So especially like when you first shared about 14, 15-year-olds being brought here. So I said that's we do need to bring that through. So brilliant. No, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll have the recordings put up onto the appropriate sites in due course, and we'll communicate that through. So we will see you all at least at the latest in 2 weeks' time when we have our next inspiration point. And if there are any family, friends, or anyone else you think might enjoy partaking in this, please do let them know and encourage them to join. They can get a donation ticket and join, or give us a shout and we can try and sort out a gifted ticket. So with that, we will say take care, thank you all, and see you soon, and we will close the session.